A very good evening to you. You're live here on GHOne TV. This is News Tonight with me, Natalie. Let's take a look at our top stories. Coming up tonight, ruling NDC. Coming up this evening, ruling NDC to seek a review of the Supreme Court's ruling which quashed the Tamale High Court's order for a rerun of the Pandai parliamentary election. Tonight's ruling, NDC to seek a review of Supreme Court's ruling which quashed the Tamale High Court order for a rerun of the Pandai parliamentary election.
When we obtain the ruling, and that's the certified true copy, and we study it, we advise ourselves. There's a review option.
Ahead, government is moving to regulate wholesales as Housing Ministry prepares to submit revised rent laws when Parliament resumes. Also ahead tonight, day 3 of our in-depth analysis of the NPP flag-bearer race continues. As we examine campaign strategies, we ask on the countdown, can party unity hold after the January 31 presidential primaries?
Candidate who wants people to vote for him will look eyeball to eyeball and lie.
Media me obia me pen kabum enti mutie me kasa me kasa ntia obia o.
Na baby ani ete not me right. Uja fusire kakra na camera ni twase ya.
Business Bank of Ghana slashes policy rates to 15.5%, citing stable inflation and improving macroeconomic conditions. And on the international front, a gold mine collapse in South Sudan has left at least 30. News here on News Tonight. Do stay.
Oh, Lord.
Well, let's settle down for the details now here on News Tonight on GHOne TV, streaming all across the world on Facebook and on X at GHOne TV. The Ashanti Regional Drug Law Enforcement Unit has destroyed illicit drugs worth millions of cedis, seized during operations across the region between 2025 and 2026. The narcotics, which included tramadol, cannabis, male enhancement products, and other prohibited drugs, were destroyed after a court order under Section 37 of the Narcotics Control Commission Act of 2020, Act 1019. Commanding officer of the unit, ASP Fraser Nutako, said the exercise was to prevent the drugs from re-entering circulation and reaffirm the police service's commitments to fighting drug abuse and trafficking. He disclosed that suspects linked to the seizures are before the courts and urged the public to stay away from drug abuse, citing serious health and security risks. Let's turn to one of the top stories this evening. The Supreme Court has, by a 4-1 majority decision, quashed the High Court's in Tamale's judgment that nullified the 2024 Pandai constituency parliamentary election. The panel of 5, presided over by Justice Gabriel Puamang, also ordered that all constitutional orders made, including orders to the EC to conduct a rerun, have also been quashed. Justice Puamang, who dissented, said the reasoning of the majority justices Amadou Tanko, Emmanuel Yoni Kulendi, Samuel Asiedu and Henry Anthony Kofi would be ready by February 6, 2026.
Member panel of the Supreme Court has, by a 4-1 majority decision, quashed the decision of the Tamale High Court to nullify the Pandai parliamentary election results. What the court is saying is that upon considering the evidence on record, the court has made the order to reverse all orders made by the High Court, including the order to rerun. What it means is that the decision or the status of the Pandai parliamentary election as per the declaration made by the EC after the 2024 election still stands. the NDC, led by Roxanne Nelson Dafiamako, a spokesperson, a legal member of the NDC, says that on the 6th of February, after obtaining the decision of the court, they will advise themselves as to whether to seek a review or not.
The ruling of the court will be filed according to the court's own decision by the 6th of February. When we obtain the ruling, and that's a certified true copy, and we study it, we will advise ourselves. There's a review option. So this matter is not ended. Nindam shouldn't think that it is over. The MPP shouldn't think that it is over. It is not over.
Gary Nimakun has also been acknowledging the decision of the Apex Court.
You see, when you come to court and the decision goes whether one way or the other, you take a legal route. What we did as a party, we took a legal route, and the court has said that. So that should be it.
But the man himself, the MP, who is at the center of this whole controversy, has these words to share.
For the ruling, because it's clear that the people wanted to change the will of the people of Bandai, but the Supreme Court has affirmed the will of the people, and I'm most grateful to them. I also want to thank the party from the head to the bottom, that is national, regional, and the constituency, for the support they've given me.
After 6th February, knowing the reasoning assigned to the decision, especially by the majority side, the way will become clear, especially for the NDC. From the Supreme Court here in Accra, Natalie, GHOne.
So as you see there, essentially the Supreme Court of Ghana has quashed the Tamale High Court's ruling that annulled this 2024 Pandai parliamentary election results. And there have been varied reactions as expected from both the NPP and the NDC. Joining now via Zoom is the Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party, Richard Ahiagba. Good evening to you, Richard, and thank you for joining us. Now, what's your general interpretation of the Supreme Court's decision? You have stated that the decision is fair. However, your opponents, the NDC, are unhappy with it. What's your response to this?
Thank you very much. Good evening to your viewers. I think it's in order to commend the legal team of the New Patriotic Party, and then also to commend the Supreme Court justices, the 5 of them, but most especially the 4, who saw wisdom and they got stuck with the fact, as it were, to help restore the status quo ante, which is bring back Martin Ndam, who legitimately won the election. I don't think that there was any ambiguity in the case that we're making from start, which is to say that there is a law on the face of which suggests that you cannot entertain the petition that was brought by the NDC that come out of time. The PNDC or 282 was clear on the face of it to say that you have 21 days to file any complaint about any election if you feel that the candidate who won the election was invalidly elected or not validly elected. That provision is express. It is not subject to interpretation. It's clear on the face of it. And so our argument was just that. The NDC, if they had a case, that case had elapsed by the time they went to petition it. And the court in Tamale knew that. And for whatever reason, the judge entertained it, which was clearly contrary to the law. That's on our books. And so we were clear in our minds that no court, apart from one that is given to skirmishes, would entertain that petition, let alone the ruling that resulted from it. So what we saw today is a Supreme Court that is exercised its power to restore the status quo that the person, Matthew Nyindam, that the good people of Pandai elected, has been validly elected, and there's no question about his election. And so therefore, we're happy that the Supreme Court could see the obvious and restore the situation as it was before the NDC's disruption of the people, the lives of the people of Pandai. So for me, and for us, it's victory for the rule of law, and it's victory for justice, not for the MPP, because we were not in a fight with them, where they were in fight with themselves against the law. The NDC was in a fight with themselves against the law. And for us, the law won against them. And that's good for our country, and that's good for the rule of law in Ghana.
Richard, I'm going to ask that you kindly hold briefly, but do stay on the line, because being engaged currently by a lawyer, that's Justice Abdullahi, private legal practitioner and lecturer, joining us on that issue. Good evening to you, sir, and thank you for joining. You just heard my conversation with Richard Ahiagba. He says that this is victory, not just for the NPP, but for justice in general as a country. Now, first of all, from a legal standpoint, can you break it down? Help us understand what this Supreme Court's ruling means for the EC's authority.
Let me make it very simple. It literally means that whatever decision that was made by the High Court of Tamale does not exist. In fact, it's as if it never even happened.
Right.
So this is not an appeal. So usually if you go on appeal, you overturn decisions. But this one is not an appeal. This one is a judicial review. And judicial review literally erases everything else that happened prior to its invocation. And so it's as if the High Court decision never happened. If you want to put it another way, it means that the High Court decision was completely unlawful. It went straight in, contrary to the laws, and establishments that we are used to till this point. And so it affirmed it doesn't affirm anybody else's position, really, if you like, considering that both sides went to the Supreme Court, to the High Court, at least from the NDC side, they went to the High Court on the basis of the nullity or otherwise of the elections that took place last year, on the basis that there were anomalies, and those anomalies literally had the impact of affecting the entirety of the elections that gave rise to Matthew becoming the MP for the area. And relied heavily on the Gazette notifications of the Electoral Commission. Unfortunately for us, there are two alleged Gazette notifications, and so as to which of them becomes the new order based on which the members of Parliament, or in fact members of Parliament in particular, have been declared to be rightful members of Parliament, is in issue. In fact, is in the central and at the core of this whole matter. There was an earlier decision by the Supreme Court that relied heavily on an earlier Gazette, at least one of the Gazette's notifications, which gave rise to one member of Parliament being booted out of office. And so the NDC or NPP side heavily relied on this at the Supreme Court to say that, this is the Gazette notification that you relied on to remove a member of Parliament. So this is a Gazette notification that. So on the basis of that, the High Court decision could not be sustained, because the High Court decision is relying on another if you like, Gazette notification.
Okay.
And so this issue has been going on for the past, since the Tamale judgment.
Right.
We've been discussing it amongst ourselves. as lawyers from both NDC and NPP side, we've been discussing these matters. And for me, sitting on the fence, I've engaged all the divides on these issues. And it was quite a difficult thing that we were hoping for a heavy pronouncement from the Supreme Court. And indeed, this is the outcome that they have brought. I was really hoping to see maybe a 3-2 decision to know exactly what would whether the minority or the majority would say about the two Gazette notifications, because now the two have become the bone of contention. The Supreme Court has preferred one over the other, and the one that it has preferred is consistent with its earlier position, as I've indicated earlier. And so, for us, the consistency is good, and it reinforces our rule of law and our tenacity to the principles of law as we know it to be. The argument in favor of the reliance on the other, the one that the High Court relied on, which is the case of the NDC, is an argument that I really would want to see the minority's opinion on. I'm hoping that Justice Pauman's decision will be made available for all of us to read and know exactly what the basis for his reliance on that, assuming he relied on that to dissent from the majority position.
Okay. Right, Justice Abdullahi, very interesting there. So technically you say that in this case is a judicial review. It therefore pretty much erases the High Court's decision as though it never even happened.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your time this evening. Justice Abdullahi joining us there, private legal practitioner and lecturer. Richard, kindly confirm if you're still on the line.
Yes.
Okay, great. I believe you heard my conversation with Justice Abdullahi. He said that this pretty much erases the High Court's decision, and does agree that in legal terms it is a positive step generally. So in the event that the NDC decides to take any action against this, what would the reaction be?
I can bet you my bottom dollar that there is no room for them to take any action. They won't. Anything they are going about telling you on TV or huffing and puffing about is really just to suit their laws, because they knew this going into it. They are very seasoned lawyers, and they know that this is a journey to nowhere that they were engaged in, and that's how come they were in so much hurry. Trying to have that election take place as quickly as possible to tie the hands of justice, to say that, there's a complication because we have gone to elect a new MP, so therefore there will be some dilly-dallying around the matter. We've seen this before. Cases involving MPs, they will be calling the case, adjourning till the term of Parliament expires, and then they will make a ruling, which will be a null and void situation because there's no Parliament to go to. So that was why they were in a hurry to have the election happen before the Supreme Court has a chance to review the application before it. So they don't have anywhere to go. There is no basis at all for them to go anywhere to claim anything. And the question is, what are they claiming? And that's why I think that the point Justice Abdullahi made about wanting to see the basis for Justice Scott Pauman's dissent from the majority is, so we can see what his legal reasoning is. That the thing is a black and white situation, it's a binary situation. There is no midway between the law that is expressed to say that you have a certain designated period of time to take an action. And when that period elapses, in law, it's elapsed. There is no way of resurrecting that. And so somehow the NDC found a way to have that case be heard by a high court. And the Supreme Court says that no, on the basis of the fact that you are out of time, this case is null and void. We said this from the beginning. They knew it. They wasted everybody else's time. And so there's no other way they are going to go. And I can bet you that they won't do anything about this. Whatever they will do about it, they have done. And it's not going to go anywhere. This is done. They're only talking in the media and running around simply because they want to soothe their pain. And you hear it's only Tanko who is talking about this thing. Nobody else is interested in this matter. And no, the NDC, senior NDC people, lawyers, who are not interested in it, they didn't want to touch it. it was a few people who are on the frolic of their own trying to disrupt the peace of the people of Bandai. So this is the end of it. It's the end of the road. There is nowhere else to turn to but to face justice as has been delivered today.
Right. Richard, we'd have to wrap it up here. Thank you for your time this evening. Richard Ahiagba joining us, the Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party. In other news this evening, experts are warning that Ghanaians, especially women and children, could be suffering from the adverse impact of heat stress in the country if nothing is done to stem the tide. It follows research findings on the impact of heat waves and heat-induced stress on women in Accra, conducted by Sustainable Solutions Africa and a joint team of researchers drawn from the University of Energy and Natural Resources under the Palm Trees Project.
Tackling the risks of extreme events, Palm Trees Project aims to co-produce climate information and policies that prioritize the needs and amplify the voices of those living on the margins. Research findings from some communities in Accra, however, show that women are at the mercy of extreme heat stress. Speaking at a workshop on co-creating extreme heat stress impact metrics to strengthen women's livelihood resilience in Accra, senior lecturer, Atmospheric and Climate Sciences Department at the University of Energy and Natural Resources, Dr. Naomi Kumi, noted that the phenomenon of extreme heat stress is more prevalent than we envisage.
I realized that heat stress is really a silent killer because it triggers a lot of underlying ailments, but people don't take it serious. Heat stress is very common among vulnerable and crowded communities in urban areas. And so we are calling on the people themselves, the assembly members in such communities, the government, stakeholders, researchers, that it's high time Ghana we take heat stress serious. It's no more considered as something that we used to hear from mid and high latitude countries when we hear heat waves and heat stress. Oh, it wasn't our thing because already we are in the tropical region and there's heat. But now the results from this project is showing that there's a call to action.
Head of Project Development and Sustainable Solutions for Africa, Dr. Elida Daku, stressed the importance of the project.
Heat stress is coming crucial in Africa because people are suffering from health issue, but we didn't realize that it's due to health because we used to live in hot area, and for us it's normal, but it's not normal. And I think what is really important in this study is to document how are we sensitive to this heat stress.
Director of Gender at the National Disaster Management Organization, Rosalind Thelma Graham, while lauding the team for a good job, urged the researchers to expand the scope beyond Accra.
The findings out of that research informs us that it is everybody that is affected. So in as much as they have selected certain places and we thought that they could have added other urban centers in across the country, because where people are populated, where businesses and livelihoods are also centered heavily, it's all because of the negative impact that it has on people's livelihood and their health.
The workshop brought together civil society, government institutions, experts, research partners, and personnel drawn from the academia.
So live here on News Tonight on GHOne TV, bringing you some more news and the countdown shortly after this. Do stay with us.
EI Election Hub. Credible, compelling, and comprehensive election coverage on TV, radio, and online.
You're welcome back to News Tonight. It's time for the countdown here on News Tonight on GHOne TV. It's just 72 hours to the big day. The NPP presidential primaries, 5 candidates, 1 ticket, all vying for the same position, flag bearer of the new patriotic party. And here on the countdown, we've taken a look at the polls, and tonight we put focus on the strategies of each of the 5 contenders. My colleague Isaac Abila is in studio to run us through that. Now, Isaac, the 5 candidates, let's start off with Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. What stands out with regards to his campaign strategy and what's his core messaging looking like?
Well, Natalie, looking at Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, we decided to focus on his campaign strategy. Also decided to look at his strengths and how he is appealing to the candidates and the delegates to give him their vote. So we decided to look at his camp, how he has strategized his campaign nationwide. And he is done with his nationwide campaign tour. He has toured the 16 regions of Ghana. And we decided to look into key insights of how he has campaigned. And we realized that he has nationwide grassroots engagement as a strategy. So Dr. Bawumia has been engaging the grassroots across the country to appeal for their votes because he believes that they constitute also to the delegate system and they will vote for him. We also looked at his campaign tours and then his direct meetings as his strategy. So Natalie, that is the strategy of Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia and how he is campaigning. And on Bawumia, we also considered his message. And with his message, he said he is electable. He has the experiences to win power for the party in 2028, since he has been the party's presidential flag bearer and also a presidential candidate in the 2024 elections. He believes he has that credibility. He believes that he has that kind of experience to lead the party. And so on Bawumia, we looked at his strength and we realized that he is seen in multiple polls as one who is always leading. Averagely, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia is leading in most of the polls that we have considered. And also, he has the extensive national campaign machinery. He is one of the candidates we have on record to have toured the 16 regions of the entire country, and that is how his campaign has been, Natalie. So that is it for Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia.
Right, Abila. Now, the other candidate who in most of the polls appears to come quite close to Bawumia is Kennedy Ohene Ejapong. He appears to have some strong grassroots engagement as well. Run me through what his narrative strength looks like.
So with Kennedy, Natalie, we realized that Kennedy Ejapong too has also been doing so well in his campaign. He is next to Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia when it comes to touring the country. He has a strategy of nationwide campaign tours too, just like Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. So he also, in his strategy, he has leveraged his ballot position number 1 as one that gives him visibility to win power. So he believes that he is on number 1 position, has positioned him for visibility on the ballot paper. And we also looked at his message, Natalie, and we realized that he campaigns on job creation and bold leadership. So Kennedy Ejapong is saying that, look, vote for me, I will come and create jobs for you. I'm bold enough to lead the party, and we've been seeing his campaign messages. He engages the youth on what he will be doing for the country. We decided to look at his narrative strength, and we realized that he is seen as the grassroots favorite in some major polls and ministerial and parliamentary. He has the parliamentary experience. So Kennedy Ohene Ejapong has that experience as a strength, as being one of longest-serving members of parliament for the Asin Central, and he believes that he has the leadership skills to lead the party to the 2028 polls, and so the delegates will give him that power. So, Natalie, that is how Kennedy is handling his campaign, and those are his strengths and the message he is putting across.
Interesting. Now, another contender, major contender, Dr. Brian Echampong, a former Minister of Food and Agriculture. What is his core messaging looking like, and how is he appealing to the grassroots?
So with Dr. Brian Echampong, we decided to examine his campaign strategy too, and we realized he also have active delegate engagement. He is engaging the grassroots as well, and he is also preaching his message, which is collaboration and party reforms. He speaks on unifying the party, which is common throughout the campaign messages we have examined. And we realized that his strength is also ministerial and parliamentary experience. So we also examined Dr. Ose Edichum, his constituency tours as a strategist, door-to-door campaign, and he also campaigns on discipline. We looked at his message to Natalie, and we realized that he also speaks on unifying the party, and in his background with education, he says he will be able to unify the party. His strengths too, he has ministerial and parliamentary experiences. Natalie.
Right, Abila, and we've got a final contender there, yes?
Yes, we have Kwabena
Ejapong, yes.
Who is also campaigning. His strategy too is door-to-door campaigns. He engages delegates nationwide, and he believes that, look, when he comes to power, he can lead the MPP to win victory. His message too is strengthening the party and also unifying the party. He has been stating that his candidature will give the party a new lease of life. And his strength too is that he is credible among long-serving party members, and then he is also a guardian of the MPP. So that is who Kwabena Ejapong is, Natalie.
Interesting. Well, we'll see what happens in the next 72 hours, isn't that, Abila? Thank you for campaign strategies of the 5 contenders vying for the spot of flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party. And one thing that has not been devoid during this campaign period between these 5 contenders has been verbal clash between them. Take a look at the next report, where we've compiled the verbal clash between the 5 contenders for the NPP flag bearership position.
Candidate who wants people to vote for him will look eyeball to eyeball and lie. He's a big liar. Men of my we're a liar.
Nakene Osiba Umiako Kase. Eko Secheduma Seko Kase. Ehonu bebe for ne edu wo no ye pepe ninti omu to aban famano. Na nko no ne be kan bi wo as akaman mu a anka enu ababedane asem. Nti on pacho ne empacho china.
Media me obi a me pen kabom. Enti mutie me kasa ntie obi a o. Me didi obi a tem. Me kyerɛ ma adwen. Because minim say mudi frank ane shemesa me fa mafre obia se ombembe kame ho na ye nyina nkopre enje tumi no
eneni na nsa ne yeko sign peace pact ewo Alisa Hotel enyame na metin krofo mienu ni mfimfin a anka de ebesi wo ho no enya sem ketwa semu na mu he video no. Number 1, at me left. No, maybe I need to not to me right. Uja kusrika krakra na camera ni chase ya.
So there you have it, some of the jabs being thrown at one another. Now, one candidate, that's Engineer Kwabena Ejapong, says that it's going to be quite difficult for the contenders to unite. Unity has been key within the MPP during this campaign period, for which he says that he is the best contender, given the fact that he has not thrown any jabs. Let's take a listen.
Whatever happens, it's only one of us who's going to be president or who's going to be the flag bearer. At the end of the day, our conduct should not bring the name of the party into disrepute. So I'm happy we've signed this pact. But at the end of the day, a lot of things have been said in this campaign, which will make it very, very difficult, I know, to reconcile, because there are a lot of things that when you say, you can't take back. You know, the kind of civility and decorum I would have loved to see. I've seen some very wild, vitriolic, intemperate language being used by so-called spokespersons of various candidates. And that's why, in my heart of hearts, I think I'm the most viable option left for the delegates to choose in order to be able to genuinely heal the party.
Well, let's stay on this. We are joined now by a political analyst, Ni Amate. For more on this issue, joins via phone. Good evening to you, sir, and thank you for joining us this evening. Now, I believe you have followed this campaign period ahead of the NPP presidential primaries. You just heard Engineer Kwabena Ejepong speaking there about unity and the conduct of the contenders. What's your take on their conduct throughout this period and in the lead up to the big day?
Well, good evening and thanks for having me. I am just assessing the candidates and then looking at the fact that they've all signed the peace pact. I think what they've been doing by way of their conduct is a bit disappointing, very, very disappointing, especially when they've assured their own party executives and they've assured the delegates that they're going to conduct themselves in a manner as to make the choice of the candidates seamlessly and to make them aware of the fact that once a person picks up the slot, the rest will join in supporting him with all their might. As we see, they've been throwing salvos, they've been throwing insults, they've been trading unpalatable words. And that, for me, is not good enough, even if we've seen it over the years. This is the year of enlightenment, and I felt this should be different.
Right. Now, you described the conduct of the contenders as very disappointing, given the fact that they signed this peace pact. Now, moving forward, even post the presidential primaries, how important would you say that this unity, the focus on unity is? And do you perceive it as something that can be achievable, that the Ghanaian public can look at the party and say that indeed there is a sense of coherence and unity? And how likely is that to impact them even moving into the elections some years ahead?
Well, so we keep deluding ourselves that once the primary is over and the flag bearer is picked, then everything will fall into place as a matter of automaticity. But you see, it's a delusion in the sense that there are things you say that hit the marrow of your opponent, and bringing them back becomes a very serious and sometimes impossible task. I mean, we can go back into history and recount some of these things that never really got healed. I mean, Nana Konadu had to go to form her own party. You saw the situation of Reku Brobe, and we can go on to recount. And so we're saying that they should know what they say. It is very unfortunate if I would have to then go personal to, find Kennedy Ejepong insulting Bawumia as a liar. Right. Meanwhile, the reason for calling him a liar did not emanate from him. So why refer to him as a liar? And you could tell that sometimes they juxtapose themselves to the ways of the pride of lions in the forest. That yes, when they get to have their prey, they fight and sometimes even wound themselves. But at the end of the day, once they have the meat, they all come together to eat and to make merry. This is not the pride of lions. This is not the forest. This is the field of humans. And we expect them to behave as humans, especially when they understand what a peace pact means.
Now, finally, with that being said, I believe you have observed the campaign strategies of the 5 candidates. What's your assessment of them? Yes, on the polls, most of the polls, Mahmoud Bawumia is in the lead. What do you make of their campaign strategies in general, and how would you assess them briefly?
Well, if you take a look at the campaign messages, especially between Bawumia and candidate GHOne, you kind of realize that they almost putting across the same messages. They're talking about the youth, they're talking about employment, they're talking about welfare of the populace, etc. And so you could tell that they all have the welfare of the people at heart. But what we're saying is that one has been too acerbic, has been corrosively, dangerous, and been trying hard all his life to be insulting persons. Look, I'm talking strictly about Kennedy GHOne. And if you weigh his words, I am not troubled about what he's done in the past, insulting all the executive members of his party and going down to insult everybody. But what I cannot forgive him was when he turned his tongue of acerbic behavior onto his ex-wife. And for a woman with whom you have kids, you don't say things about her that way. And so for me, I think Kennedy GHOne is not ready. It's not ready. And I therefore take Bawumia. Bawumia has his own faults. I mean, he's been the vice president. Under his supervision, we plummeted our city to a level which was so dangerous. Today, the city is given some recognition of respect, and we are all happy. What did he do to our inflation? 53%. Moved them to the 23%. Today it's 5%. So Bawumia, the e-levy, etc. We can recount all his failures, which led to their demise, so to speak. And so we all know what they have done. But Kennedy GHOne should watch his tongue, because the tongue can send him into perdition.
We'd have to wrap it up here. Thank you very much for your time. Ni Amate joining us, their political analyst on that issue. 72 hours to the presidential primaries of the New Patriotic Party. You'll get the very latest right here on GH1 TV and across all our sister stations. That wraps up the countdown.
IB Election Hub. Credible, compelling, and comprehensive election coverage on TV, radio, and online.
Next on News Tonight, we bring you business news.
The Business Brief is brought to you by CompuGhana, passion for technology.
In business this evening, the Bank of Ghana has cut its key lending rate by 250 basis points from the 18.0% into record 15.5%. The bank cited improved macroeconomic conditions and a strong rebound in the performance of the cedi as key factors to the reduction. There's more in this report.
Bank's 128th Monetary Policy Committee meeting, it noted that improved reserve accumulation has provided buffers for the local currency throughout 2025. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Esiama, noted that the strong performance reflects favorable global conditions, prudent monetary policy, effective liquidity management, and a significant buildup of foreign exchange reserves.
GDP growth is expected to remain strong in 2026, with the output gap narrowing. While this may introduce moderate demand-side pressures, the committee, that's the MPC, judged that current monetary conditions do remain tight relative to prevailing inflation dynamics. Sustaining Ghana's macroeconomic gains will hinge on disciplined fiscal policy, strong policy coordination, and targeted agricultural interventions to contain food inflation while remaining vigilant to heightened geopolitical tensions.
The committee noted that inflation has declined faster than expected, with expectations well anchored, while economic growth remains.
Now let's stay on this. Joining via Zoom is Associate Director, Financial Advisory at Deloitte Ghana, Dennis Brown. He joins us now for a conversation on this decision by the MPC. Good evening to you and thanks for joining. Now, you have earlier said that you saw this coming, so with that regard, it might not be a surprise to you. However, with that said, is it justified?
Well, yeah, good evening to your viewers. I think reasons given by the Bank of Ghana, even some of the factors they signaled ahead of reaching this decision, you can say is justified. I mean, what I had indicated earlier was that I was expecting them to assess the impact of the big cuts that were done earlier, and to be a bit more cautious in coming up with any further cuts. I think they have been a bit more cautious. So you look at the previous cut, it was around 350 basis points. Now they are doing 250 basis, which is a bit higher than what I had expected. But if you look at the reasons they laid out, including the fact that they look at inflation projections over the next months, and they expect for it to be within the optimal range of 8% plus or minus 2%, which is largely, single digit. And even earlier reports also suggesting that inflation might even go down further, below the 5.4% that we've seen. That then suggests that, this is a vote of confidence in the stability that we have achieved so far, and reinforces confidence that we are likely to stay on this path. So, it's only right that they cut the rate down.
Right. Now, briefly, we've also got average lending rates currently on the decline. But what more can you say can be done to help translate, for people to get loans at cheaper rates?
Yeah, that is to say for the lending rates to continue dropping. I think I looked at the economic data shared earlier today, and I noted something very interesting. I noted, we all know the trend that the monetary policy rate has been on. It's come down from about 28% to about, now 18% before this cut. That's in December. And then you look at the Ghana reference rate, it has also come down from almost 30%, I think 29.7%, to about 15.9%, which is to say it was, halved. If you look at the way it was in January 2025 to where it got to in December 2020, but you look at the average lending rate, it has dropped, but not by as sharp as the Ghana reference rate. Now, the Ghana reference rate happens to be the base rate that everybody faces. Then the lenders will look at each case and add a risk margin, right, based on your risk profile, and say maybe you are a high risk customer, so I'm going to add 5%, and that becomes your lending rate. Or sometimes they categorize customers into buckets and assign a certain risk rating to them, and that then, culminates into the lending rate. So to the extent that the lending rate itself has not dropped by as much as the Ghana reference rate, it tells you that there is still some risk in the system. It could be risks relating to a high default rate, for instance. So people are taking loans and not paying. When the banks look at that, yes, they'll recognize that the base rate is dropping, but there's still high risk that when I give you this loan, you might not pay. So I'll add a more than expected margin on the Ghana reference rate to cater for that. And that then makes the lending rate a bit more rigid in terms of the way we expect it to drop. Okay. So these are challenges that Bank of Ghana should look towards addressing by working with the banks to ensure that they attack or address the bottlenecks that have not allowed the pass-through effect, on the lending rates to be as sharp as we expect. Then they can do that by working with them to review and ensure
now,
that
Dennis,
they are applying the
very salient points you're making there, but you're talking about further engagement between the BOG and banks. But we're going to have to wrap it up here due to time. Thank you for your time this evening. Dennis Brown joining us, the Associate Director of Financial Advisory at Deloitte Ghana. You're still live here on News Tonight. Do stay with us.
The Business Brief was brought to you by CompuGhana, passion for technology.
Zone tonight, Ghanaian rapper Kwesi Arthur has been summoned to appear before the High Court in Accra by his former record label, Ground Up Chale, and its founder, Glenn Boateng. The court has instructed him to appear within 8 days of being served, warning that failure to do so could result in a judgment in his absence. The legal action follows Kwesi Arthur's recent social media accusations claiming his former label tried to sabotage his career and alleging that Glenn Boateng demanded $150,000 to use his own images for an independent project. The rapper's public call-out has sparked strong reactions from both creatives in the entertainment industry and the general public. Lots more local and international stories available on our website, starfm.com.gh. Many thanks to you for making the time. It was produced by Emmanuel. Natalie Fort. Have a wonderful evening.